Division of integers, NCERT, Class 7, Chapter 1, page 18, Exercise 1.3. Division of integers. Division is the inverse operation of multiplication. Now for whole numbers corresponding to each multiplication fact, there are two division statements. Now 4 into 5 is 20. Now 20 can be divided by 4 to get 5 and 20 can be divided by 5 to get 4. Let us write multiplication statement with its corresponding division statements for two positive integers. 3 into 5 is 15 and corresponding division statements are 15 divided by 3 is equal to 5 and 15 divided by 5 is equal to 3. In both the cases, to divide a positive integer by a positive integer, divide as whole numbers and then put a positive sign before the quotient. Now a positive integer divided by a positive integer, the quotient is a positive integer. Multiplication statement minus 6 multiplied by 10 is equal to negative 60 and corresponding to this division statement for the division will be minus 60 divided by minus 6 is equal to plus 10. So here we see that when we divide a negative integer by a negative integer, we get a positive integer. We first divide them as whole numbers and then put a positive sign before the quotient. A negative integer divided by a negative integer, the quotient is a positive integer. Now multiplication statement with corresponding division statement for a negative and a positive integer. Now 3 multiplied by negative 4 is equal to minus 12. Let us consider a negative integer minus 12 divided by a positive integer 3. Now minus 12 divided by 3 is equal to minus 4. We first divide them as whole numbers, then put a negative sign before the quotient. So we've seen that a negative integer divided by a positive integer, the quotient is a negative integer. Now let's take the multiplication statement. Minus 8 multiplied by minus 6 is equal to 48. Now the corresponding division statements are 48 divided by minus 8 is equal to minus 6. So here we have a positive integer 48 which is divided by a negative integer minus 8 and the quotient is negative. We'll first divide them as whole numbers, then put a negative sign before the quotient. A positive integer divided by a negative integer, the quotient is a negative integer. Rules for division. Positive divided by positive is equal to positive. Negative divided by negative is equal to positive. Positive divided by negative is equal to negative. Negative divided by positive is equal to negative. When the signs are the same, the answer is positive. When the signs are different, the answer is a negative integer. In general, for any two positive integers a and b, minus a divided by minus b is equal to a divided by b, where b is not equal to 0. Now let's take an example. We have a positive integer 50 divided by a negative integer minus 25. So on dividing we get minus 2. Now we take minus 50, a negative integer, divided by a positive integer 25. When we do this division again, we get minus 2 as a quotient. So 50 divided by minus 25 is equal to minus 2 is equal to minus 50 divided by 25. So in general, for any two positive integers a and b, a divided by minus b is equal to minus a divided by b, where b is not equal to 0. Now let's do some properties of division of integers. Minus 35 divided by minus 5, we get a positive integer 7. But when we divide minus 9 by minus 10, we are not getting an integer. We get a fraction 9 by 10. So integers are not closed under division. Now let's evaluate minus 12 divided by 3. Now this is a negative integer divided by a positive integer, we get negative 4. Now we interchange. Now we divide 3 divided by negative 12. Now 3 divided by negative 12 will give us minus 1 upon 4. The two quotients are not equal. So a divided by b is not equal to b divided by a. Division is not commutative for integers. Division of an integer by 0 is not defined. So for any integer, a divided by 0 is not defined. Now let's see 0 divided by 3 is equal to 0. So 0 divided by an integer other than 0 is equal to 0. That is, for any integer a, 0 divided by a is equal to 0. For a not equal to 0. Now let's observe minus 7 divided by 1 is equal to minus 7. So we observe that an integer divided by 1 gives the same integer for any integer a divided by 1 is equal to a. Now let's observe minus 8 divided by minus 1. We get a positive 8. So an integer divided by minus 1 gives an opposite integer. So for any integer a divided by minus 1 is equal to minus a. Let's solve this. Minus 24 divided by 6 within brackets divided by minus 2. And minus 24 divided by, now 6 divided by minus 2 are associated within the parentheses. Now minus 24 divided by 6, we first evaluate and get minus 4 as a negative integer is divided by a positive integer. And minus 2 we write as it is. Now negative integer divided by a negative integer, minus 4 divided by minus 2 will give 2. Now let's see minus 24 divided by 6 divided by negative 2. So we first evaluate the parenthesis. Minus 24 divided by positive integer divided by a negative integer gives minus 3. Now minus 24 divided by minus 3 gives us positive 8. So the two sides are not equal, and we say that a divided by b associated divided by c is not equal to a divided by b divided by c associated. So division is not associative for integers. Now let's take up some simple examples. 6 divided by 3 is equal to 2. Positive integer divided by a positive integer. A negative integer divided by a positive integer, answer will be negative minus 2. Positive integer divided by a negative integer, answer will be minus 4. 45 divided by 9. When we divide a positive integer by a positive integer, we get a positive quotient. Minus 6 divided by minus 3. Dividing a negative integer by a negative integer, we get positive 2. Now minus 10 divided by 0. Division by 0 is not defined. 0 divided by negative 8. This will be equal to 0. 9 divided by minus 1, we'll get an opposite integer, minus 9. Minus 5 divided by 1 is equal to the same integer, minus 5. Now let's do some book sums. A negative integer 30 divided by a positive integer 10 will be a negative. So minus 3. A positive integer divided by a negative integer, the answer will be negative. So minus 10. Minus 36 divided by minus 9. Dividing a negative integer with a negative integer, we get plus 4. Minus 49 divided by 49, we will get negative 1. A negative integer divided by a positive integer gives a negative integer. Now 0 divided by minus 12. Now 0 divided by an integer other than 0 is equal to 0. So we get 0. Now let's evaluate 13 divided by minus 2 plus 1 within parentheses. So we first solve the parentheses. Minus 2 plus 1 will be equal to negative 1. So now 13 divided by minus 1, a positive integer divided by a negative integer will give us a negative integer. Or 13 divided by minus 1 will give an opposite integer. Now let's evaluate minus 31 divided by minus 30 plus minus 1 within parentheses. Evaluating the parentheses first, minus 30 plus minus 1 will be equal to minus 31. So now minus 31 divided by minus 31, an integer divided by itself gives 1. Now 36 divided by 12 divided by 3. Now we'll have first do the parentheses. 36 divided by 12 is equal to minus 3. The negative integer divided by a positive integer. So now again we have a negative integer divided by a positive integer. So the answer will be minus 1. Minus 6 plus 5 within parentheses divided by minus 2 plus 1 within parentheses. So we first evaluate the parentheses. Minus 6 plus 5 is equal to minus 1. Minus 2 plus 1 is equal to minus 1. So minus 1 divided by minus 1. Negative divided by a negative is a positive integer. Now let's do some fill in the blanks. 369 divided by dash is equal to 369. An integer divided by 1 gives the same integer. So 1. An integer divided by its opposite equals negative 1. So minus 75 divided by plus 75 will be equal to minus 1. Now an integer divided by itself equals 1. So minus 206 divided by minus 206 will be equal to 1. Minus 87 divided by minus 1 will give its opposite, that is plus 87. What should be divided by 1 to get minus 87? Now minus 87 should be divided by 1 to get minus 87. An integer divided by 1 gives the same integer. What divided by 48 will give negative 1? An opposite integer divided by 48 will give negative 1. So minus 48 will fill in the blank. Now 20 divided by blank is equal to negative 2. The answer is negative. So 20 is a positive integer. We must divide by a negative integer. And the value of the negative integer will be minus 10. Because 20 divided by minus 10 will be equal to negative 2. Dash divided by 4 is equal to minus 3. So negative integer divided by a positive integer will give a negative quotient. So we must have a negative integer here, that is minus 12. Now we write 5 pairs of integers such that a divided by b is equal to minus 3. Now let's write minus 6 divided by 2 is equal to minus 3. 9 divided by minus 3 is equal to minus 3. Minus 9 divided by 3 is equal to minus 3. And minus 15 divided by 5 is equal to negative 3. 21 divided by minus 7 is equal to minus 3. And minus 21 divided by 7 is equal to minus 3.